Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Golden Gloves Chat Show. With me, you can see these two very great guests, Lerena and Dricus Stillknocks du Plessis. These guys are two icons of combat sport in South Africa, and not only South Africa, around the world. So Kevin, you're a former IBO Cruiserweight World Champion, and now looking for that WBC Bridgerweight World Title. We'll talk a lot about that. Dricus Stillknocks du Plessis, I want to talk to you just now about that nickname. Rated number 6 in the world in the UFC. Fantastic achievement. You're 19-2, your record. Kevin is 28-2, so fantastic records. Dricus, firstly, welcome to our show for the first time. Hopefully we're going to chat many more times when you go forward and have all those big wins. Golden Gloves has invited you to the big show on the 13th of May, where Kevin Lerena fights Ryad Merhy next week, Saturday at Empress Palace. And of course, you're going to be sitting with one of our big sponsors, World Sports Betting. You'll be at their table. They're excited about it. We're excited about it. So fantastic. Congratulations on what you're achieving. Let's talk about it. So both you guys are in massive fights for the mandatory position in your respected sports, right? Boxing and MMA. Kevin, you up in 11 days' time. Big fight with Ryad Merhy. And you've signed Dricus for July 8th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So that's massive. That's a massive fight. Kevin's got a massive fight in 11 days' time. Ryad Merhy from Belgium, who's 31-1. He's a credible fighter. And that, of course, is for the Eliminator for the Bridgerweight title. We're going to talk a lot more about that now. As soon as I've done all your great introductions. Dricus, you fight Robert Whittaker from Australia, 24-6. And he's only lost twice in UFC. And that was to the middleweight champion,
Yes.
Alessandro. So let me talk to you first, because seeing that you're the first-time guest. Before we talk about the two big fights, we've got a lot to talk about. Where did it all start for you, the wanting to fight? I know you were a world champion kickboxer. Where did it start?
Yeah, the big thing for me is I started with judo, which is a very traditional martial arts at the age of 5. I was 5 years old. So
5 years old?
5 years old, yeah.
Okay.
So my brothers, they did it, but it was all just for fun as a extra activity after school. And I was there, and every day they trained. They started when I was 3, and you have to be 5 to be able to start training. And I started training there in judo. My brothers were both national champions a couple of times. I didn't have the opportunity because I wasn't old enough when I stopped. I did judo up until I was around 10. Then I started with wrestling from 10 to around 12. And then I started to take a big liking in fight movies. And I started watching these movies, and I just started liking it. Started training, and there was a kickboxing tournament close to my house. I come from Hartbeespoort, and just fell in love with the art of fighting and
Combat sport.
any combat sports for that matter. So it's been a part of my life for a long time, and I just enjoyed it. And at 15, I had my first kickboxing official amateur fight, and the rest was history. At 18, I became WACO K1 world champion.
World champion in kickboxing.
Yeah, as an amateur, and that was when I knew that I said maybe this is more than just a passion. Maybe I can really pursue this and see how far it goes. For watching UFC as a fan since I was 15, 16 years old, always had the dream of maybe fighting on that big stage, and here we are. It's an absolutely amazing journey.
Fantastic. Well, you've done an absolutely amazing job in your chosen sport. Right next to you, got a former cruiserweight world champion, Kevin Lerena. In boxing, of course, we're in a boxing office here, a boxing environment. I want to talk to you a bit more about boxing. How important is boxing in your sport, in mixed martial arts?
I think MMA, mixed martial arts as a sport, has developed now into a place where it's almost a unique style, where the whole idea behind MMA is having a boxer coming in and fighting a jiu-jitsu practitioner or a wrestler and saying who's the best, what style is superior. That's how the whole MMA started. That's what was the purpose of MMA starting. And in the beginning of MMA, it was almost like the wrestlers just destroyed everybody because they could get everybody on the ground and just beat them. Then the grapplers came, the jiu-jitsu practitioners, and nobody knew anything about these choke holds and these arm bars, and they just, even the smallest guys just beat all these big. And back then there was no testing, juiced up guys. Then these small guys just had them arm bars and choked them out. And then the striker started to realize, listen, if the guy can't take me down, and then the kickboxers and the boxers started making very good ground, and they just knocked out everybody. So I think, and then the sport where it is now, it's a completely different style. The boxing style of MMA is completely different to a traditional boxing style.
And you need to be a good boxer as well.
You need to be a good boxer. At the end of the day, especially at the highest level, me as a fighter, if I look at my next opponent in Whittaker, he is really a very all-around fighter. I think that's probably his best attribute, being tough and fit, and obviously being a very all-arounder. So when the fight's on the feet, his kicks are good, his striking is good, his wrestling is good, his grappling is good. But somewhere there's a hole, and that's where people are going to find it. If you look at some of the guys, they have very good wrestling or very good grappling, but once it stays on the feet, they're in trouble. And you don't want to be in a position where somebody realizes that they are so much better than you. So if I'm a wrestler, that's great. But if I'm a good striker and I can just defend your takedowns and then start getting the boxing going, you're in big trouble. So I mean, boxing is probably one of the most iconic sports in the world.
Thank you.
If you look at it, it's absolutely amazing. I love boxing. I think it's an amazing
Thanks.
sport.
Let me bring in Kevin Lerena, former world champion, of course, fighting #1 position next week, Saturday at Empress Palace on the Golden Glove Show. Kevin, we're talking a lot. Obviously, you've watched Dricus. I've watched Dricus, even though we're in the boxing game. He's doing a phenomenal job. Your opinion on mixed martial arts and where Dricus is going and the boxing part, how important is the boxing part, would you think?
Yeah, firstly, welcome to Dricus, to the Golden Gloves office. You've welcomed him already, boxing office, but Dricus is doing great things for South African combat sports all round. So well done to him. Where's boxing and MMA and how does it align? I see MMA as a bit of everything. You know, like he just said, he mentioned it's your jiu-jitsu, it's your wrestling, it's your judo, it's your boxing. And I think boxing, in terms of combat sports, it's a big fundamental going into MMA. I think, I've never done MMA before, so I wouldn't know. But I think if your fundamentals of boxing are right, and you got to almost, like he said, his opponent is a good all-rounder. And Dricus himself is a good all-rounder, because I think you got to kind of have a decent boxing platform, a decent jiu-jitsu platform, a decent wrestling platform, and then amalgamate your own style to become great.
Yes.
And I think boxing, all fights start standing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And not all fights start on the ground, but not all fights stay standing. So I think the key for them is being good in all aspects. And I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest respect I have for MMA fighters. They are all-rounded fighters, you know. But the fundamentals of striking can take you very far if you've got all the other attributes like jiu-jitsu, like wrestling. So it's a very hard sport, but a commendable sport, because they've got to work on all types of disciplines. So
Of course. Do you spar with pro boxers like Kevin Dricus?
I spend a lot of time, because we're in Pretoria.
Yes.
So we have Sebastian's
Sebastian
gym
Rothman,
yes,
of course.
He's gym right there.
Former cruiserweight world champion as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's one of our guys, yeah.
He's absolutely amazing and one of the nicest guys in the world. So a lot of times, because we have a boxing gym in Pretoria as well.
Okay.
And we have...
Where you do just the boxing?
Just boxing. So we have CIT, Performance Institute, that's our MMA and our fitness gym. And then we have a jiu-jitsu gym. And then we opened up about a year and a half ago, CIT Boxing, which is... We have our coach, Vusi. He took over one of the Commonwealth teams in the past. Okay. He's an extremely good coach. And so we have a lot of guys that are amateur boxers coming through, and a lot of newcomers. Like I said, we have a passion for all combat sports.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So a lot of times, like Sebastian and them, they would come over on weekends and spar with us. So we have guys like Cohen Ray. He doesn't have very big guys.
Yeah.
But a guy like Cohen is perfect for me, because what's going to happen at the end of the day is I'm going to start slugging it out.
He gives you speed.
Yeah, and he gives me that speed, and he gives me those angles that I'm not used to, and it's great. It's amazing to see, because I mean, if you can compare this with a Conor McGregor, that's his background is boxing, and you can see how perfectly, to add on to what you said earlier, how great that added on in his MMA career. He's one of the greatest MMA fighters ever. He just knocked everybody out. And went over to boxing and boxed with the greatest Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. And obviously didn't go his way, because you have to understand that's what Floyd does. Sure. That's what he does. And he did great for what he did. But you have to realize, for the last 10 years, what Conor's been doing is 1 day of boxing, 1 day of kickboxing, 1 day of grappling. Sure. Where Floyd has been.
But it is great to know for us specifically, I suppose, in this interview, that boxing is a big part of your sport.
100%.
And because obviously, man, that's what we do. So if you ever need more boxing advice, the man on your right will help you.
If there's
when you get the big
fight
fight
for advice when it comes to boxing.
When you get the big fight of Israel Adesanya, speak to Kevin about some sparring. So let me talk to EFC compared to UFC. For the layman viewers out there, even myself personally, what is the difference?
So EFC is an incredible company. I think they've been getting some flack from some people, and I think it's very unfair because they do not have the financial means to pay what a UFC can pay, and they're getting paid in dollars and euros and all these big organizations. And they started UFC around, I would say it's about 12 years ago now. And yeah, I think so. And they gave us a platform because EFC is where I started. I won my welterweight title and middleweight title in EFC, then got an opportunity to go fight in Europe, and ultimately got the opportunity to go to the UFC. And it's basically a platform for local fighters and African fighters to come in, and they do bring in international fighters, but obviously with COVID, it took a bit of it put some brakes on the organization, but they are back at it and doing great events again. And it's amazing because there's so many guys. At the end of the day, you have to realize if you're born in South Africa or in Africa and you want to go fight professional MMA, it's really hard without a record. And EFC gives you that opportunity to get a 2 or 3-0 pro record and get an opportunity to go fight in a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. So it's a regional promotion, EFC Worldwide. They started in South Africa. It was EFC Africa, and then it became EFC Worldwide when they started being recognized internationally. So it's amazing that it's a South African-born organization, and they're doing great for the local fighters. And then, of course, UFC, which is the apex of the sport. You have every country or continent has a lot of organizations, or call it companies that promote fights. At the end of the day, all of those fight organizations are feeders for the UFC, which is the
fantastic
50 best of each weight division.
Fantastic. Dricus, thank you for clearing that first. Kevin, let me talk to you, your big fight against Ryad Merhy next week. We're all looking forward to it at Empress Palace on a World Sports Betting Show. Probably your biggest fight to date. It's a WBC title that will be on the line. When you beat Ryad Merhy, of course, you're going to fight the world champion. Let's talk Ryad Merhy. Obviously, we don't want to jump the gun yet with Ryad Merhy. You got to beat him next Saturday. Your training camp going into this fight. Talk to us about it, Kevin Lerena.
Super confident, Brian. I'll tell you why. Because Peter and I have spoken throughout this camp, throughout all our sparring sessions. And every time I'd step out the ring, I'd say to him, had I fought like I sparred today, I stopped Dubois in 3 rounds. And I wasn't preparing I didn't prepare for Dubois like I'm in the shape I'm in now. Not physically, in terms of fitness, I'm always fit. In terms of my skill set, what I'm delivering in sparring, what Peter's asking of me, I'm delivering more. And I think maybe it was just the case of the loss reignited that fire within me. And I knew what I had to do because I blamed myself for the loss, no one else. And I think it's coming all together. You know, Ryad Merhy is a tough competitor, 31-1. So he's got a lot of wins, only 1 loss. And I want to put that second loss on his record. And it's a hard eliminator fight. You know, a lot of people have questioned, you know, could you have had an easier comeback fight? But being at the pinnacle is not about that. It's about the best, fighting the best, and going on to fight for world titles. And I just look forward to the opportunity. But I'm in a good space mentally. I'm in a good space physically. And I know what I have to do to win in terms of skills. Peter's formulated a great plan for me. Now it's just up to me to execute it on the night.
Well, you've only lost twice in 30 fights, which is a very credible record. You had 7 IBO cruiserweight world title fights successfully. What is a day like in the training camp of Kevin Lerena, like now with 11 days out? What have you put in to get where you are sitting right now? You look in fantastic condition.
Thank you. It all varies. Obviously, we have our days of sparring. We have our days of boxing, technical work in the mornings. I have the days that I do my running. I have the days that I do strength and conditioning. So it all depends. You know, I know my body well enough now. My head trainer, Peter Smith, knows what he needs from me in the boxing gym. My conditioning coach, who I see twice a week, knows what he needs from me. And then I'll talk to them. I let them know how I'm feeling. You know, for example, I sparred 10 rounds at a high pace, you know. maybe an easy jog this evening as opposed to a hard conditioning session. You know, we communicate with each other because for me, the most important thing is getting into the boxing gym in the morning and giving 110% there.
Do you feel you've arrived now at the right weight division? Obviously, you were a big cruiserweight.
Yeah.
You were small heavyweight compared to the massive heavyweights out there. At 100 kilograms, do you feel you've arrived in the right weight division?
Look, it's a new weight division. It's a created weight division for the guys who are smaller heavyweights. Has the weight division worked out for me? Well, we're going to see.
You're going to see next week.
But I think being a smaller heavyweight is always going to be hard. We were very close to winning a heavyweight world title and beating Dubois. So had I beaten Dubois, people would have said, well, maybe he's not that small. Maybe he is fast enough. He is skilled enough, you know. But unfortunately, we lost. We find ourselves on this side of the fence. So at the end of the day, I'm just here to get back to winning ways in impeccable fashion and to go on and become the WBC Bridgerweight World Champion, the third WBC World Champion from South Africa. And then hopefully we get a massive heavyweight world title shot again. At the end of the day, it's business. And we know the glamour division is the heavyweight division. You know, the Adesanyas of MMA is the Tyson Furies and the Joshuas of boxing. So that's where the money is. And at the end of the day, I'm here to support my family, and that's the goal I want. I want to become the WBC Bridgerweight champion. I want to defend that belt as much as I can. I want to leave no stone unturned that the heavyweights say we want to fight that guy again because it's exciting. And we were exciting against the boss. Just about opportunity now. And this is the opportunity that presents itself thanks to Golden Gloves, Supersport, and everyone else.
Thanks, Kevin. I want to talk to you a bit more now about that WBC world title. Let's get back to you, Dricus. Let me ask you straight back into it. Where did the nickname Stillknocks come from?
So, like I said, as an amateur kickboxing fighter, so I had my first few, 4 fights. I didn't even have a coach. I just had a bag there in my garage, and I just, a lot like I fight now. I just went in full speed, not a lot
you
of...
still do?
Just go and try and get that knockout. And my record, even with the world title fight, I was South African amateur champion and pro-am champion, and then world champion was 33-0 with 30 knockouts. So it was knockout after knockout after knockout. My third or fourth fight wasn't a knockout, and then my world title fight was also a decision. And as an amateur, it's only 3 rounds. So it was, you have 3-minute rounds to go out there and try and get this guy out of there. And that's how. So when I signed my first pro fight at EFC, everybody had a nickname, and I said, well, I kind of need a nickname. My brother was like, I have the perfect nickname for you. And he came up with it, and I said, well, that sounds kind of...
So what does Stillknocks mean?
So Stillknocks is basically, it's a sleeping tablet.
Yes. I thought,
that's it. So that's where it came from.
It's a sleeping tablet.
So we changed the spelling a little, and it stuck.
Interesting.
So yeah.
That's because you got to put them to sleep.
Yeah, got to put them to sleep.
The Gerrie Coetzee movie. I mean, Gerrie Coetzee is our first world heavyweight champion ever.
What a legend. From
Africa, from South Africa. Absolute legend. Everybody who knows boxing and knows sport in this country knows of the late, great Gerrie Coetzee. They asked you to play Gerrie Coetzee in the movie. What an honor, firstly.
Wow.
Talk to us about meeting the great man and what's happening with the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first time they phoned me and I said, well, do they want me? I assumed when they called me and we met at Menlyn and they said, no, they'll come through, that they want me to maybe reenact some fight scenes for whoever's playing the lead role. And they were like, listen, there's some big names they could get to play the big role, but it's much easier to teach me how to act than to teach an actor how to fight.
Okay,
and it's
interesting.
And I said, well, listen, I don't know anything about acting. And they said, don't you worry, we'll take care of that. We'll make sure you get all the help you need. And immediately I was super excited, and obviously a massive, massive honor to be able to be considered for a role like that. And a big responsibility, of course. But no, the movie is an international production. So most of the production is in America. So we'll be shooting some of the content here, some of it there. And with COVID, everything was delayed. And obviously with financing and all of that with the movie, there was some delays. But we actually spoke this morning again. Everything is well on the way. A big thing to consider with this is also I have a fight coming up in 10 weeks. So there's not time for me to spend on set from the morning 8 till 5 because it's a long time.
Well,
amount of time.
and obviously your career's at its ultimate high now.
Absolutely. So
Both
that's
yourself and Kevin.
Exactly. So that's always the priority. So we have to work together. So they might do some of the stuff where I'm not involved, and then when I'm done and when it works out, because with COVID, because we were set to go, we had a date to start, and then the second wave came of
COVID just messed up.
Yeah, the second wave came of the red status, as they call it, for South Africa, and everything was stopped again. So, but I mean, everything is going ahead, and it's going to be an amazing film. I think I read this whole script, and it's absolutely incredible.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to that going forward. But right now, as you said, the priority is you got Robert Whittaker that you've signed to fight on the 8th of July in Las Vegas. Massive fight. As you said, he's only lost twice, and it was to the world champion. Is that right?
Yeah, he used to fight at welterweight, where he lost.
As a middleweight,
he's only lost twice in his UFC career.
And that's Israel
and that was Adesanya, the current champion, twice.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, and most people argue that Whittaker is the better fighter. I think what they say is just some guys have other guys' number, but Adesanya just has his number. Unfortunately, the styles make fights,
but of course you've got to get through Whittaker to get to Adesanya.
Absolutely,
and the same as Kevin. So I'm saying not if you get through him.
When you get through him.
When you get through him. When Kevin gets through him. Next week we'll have two great South Africans
fighting for world titles.
World titles. And let's talk Israel Adesanya. So firstly, Robert Whittaker, you can't lose him because he's an Australian. So more so than ever, you definitely got to knock him out. You got to do still knocks on him.
Absolutely.
And so let's talk. So when you beat Robert Whittaker in July, the big fight, Israel Adesanya. Talk to us about Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, we like to say how it is now is it's a proper old school tri-nations. You know, Whittaker being from Australia, Adesanya being from New Zealand.
Yeah,
I'm being from South Africa. So no, it's just everything is aligned perfectly for such a great story. And like we know, we back the box, and we know the box always bring it home. And that's the same that I'm going to do. I'm going to beat the Australian in Whittaker and then bring that belt home from the New Zealand guy.
Before I ask you the big story that's obviously trending about you and Adesanya, Kevin, let's talk about Lukasz Rozanski now. He won the WBC title. So obviously, as we said, when you beat Ryad Merhy next week, you got the big fight for the WBC title. What did you think of Rozanski?
I was surprised of how fast he disposed of Ellen Babic. I expected more from Ellen Babic. I know Ellen Babic, and I think maybe that's my opinion. He, in changing trainers, wasn't the right decision for Babic. But Rozanski's tough. He's a come forward. He's a slugger. If you're going to sit in the pocket and trade with him, it becomes a 50-50 fight. So he's the type of guy you got to be quick on the mark, explosive, get off the line, and box his ears off, and then find him down the line. So I think that's how I would fight Rozanski. You know, I think Babic fought Rozanski by literally standing in front of him and having a slugfest. Then it's 1-for-1. It becomes a 50-50 fight no matter who you are. These are big guys that can hit. But if you keep him off balance and move around, like Peter's already speaking, being explosive, short, to the point, make a long night for Rozanski. But
he's 15 fights, 14 knockouts.
Yeah, he's a puncher. That's no secret. You know, with a record like that, the man can punch. So why you want to stand toe-to-toe when you can punch yourself but box his ears off at the same time? You know, otherwise it becomes 50-50. You got to be prepared to say, well, this fight can either go his way or my way. And that's not about that. I want it to go wholeheartedly my way. So how do I make it go my way? That's the most
so you two guys are one fight away from massive fights. And you guys are both 2 fights away from history, really.
Absolutely.
From signing your own checks, let's call it.
I don't know about that.
I'll be hanging out with you two guys if you win your next 2 fights.
Maybe the UFC, I don't know.
When you win your next 2 fights. So there's big fights out there. There's big money. Before I say goodbye to you and Kevin, tell us quickly the story trending now. With you called Adesanya out, Israel Adesanya. Obviously, they've made it into a bigger thing. Then he called you out.
Funny enough that it took a little while to obviously come, because my statement was made before my last fight, and that was on the 4th of March. So the statement came after his fight that happened, I think, 2 weeks ago. And what I said was, they asked me how, because last year there was 3 titles that belonged to in the UFC. Heavyweight, middleweight, and welterweight belong to African-born fighters. Yes. and they
Just give us the names of those guys. again.
Francis Ngannou, heavyweight champion.
Yeah,
Adesanya, Israel Adesanya, he was the middleweight champion. Then Kamaru Usman, who
Kamaru
was
Usman, the welterweight
the
champion.
welterweight champion.
Okay.
So a year later, we on that fight night, none of them had their belts. Adesanya had lost. Ngannou is not with the UFC anymore, and then Usman lost his belt. And they asked me how I felt about that. No more belts in Africa, and I said those belts never came to Africa. Those were the only fighters that can bring a belt home to Africa, where I reside, I train, I live, I breathe every single day, is myself and Cameron. And they took a lot of offense saying that I said they are not real Africans. And I don't know what all the stuff was they said. But I mean, I think it was from their point of view, they just tried, they didn't listen to what I said. They heard what people said and maybe made their own
took it a bit out of context.
Absolutely. I never at all said anything about them being African or me being more African. Never said it once.
Yeah.
What I said was that I am and I will be the first residing African fighter.
Which
that
is fair
lives in-
enough.
And it's not being arrogant, it's stating fact. Because Adesanya lives in New Zealand, that's his home. And Kamaru Usman lives in America, that's his home. And it doesn't take away from that they are African.
Yeah.
But they do not reside in Africa. When they go home with their belts, they go to.
And that's all you said.
That's all I said. And
Given
they just
your opinion, or we spoke about it off air, so let's chat about it now. So, what did you think about all this that's been trending?
I just exactly what Dricus said. I just saw the Twitter stuff happening, I said, okay, well, what's happening here? And then I just saw the current champion Adesanya just going off on a tangent, and I thought to myself, I don't think he's really understanding. This man didn't say he's not African. He just said he doesn't reside in Africa.
Yes.
And maybe they took it the wrong way. But you know what? No publicity. Any publicity is good publicity. And kudos to Dricus and to Adesanya. This has created something exciting for him. And not to say that he wanted that aggravation to create something, because he was going to create something exciting in his own right by his fighting skills. But this is boxing. It's like me versus the bar. We got at each other. Sent me a contract. He never sent one back. I went after him. We made the fight happen. So I think the most important thing is what comes of this. And it must never be turned into a racial thing, because at the end of the day, we South African, we reside here. They African, they just reside somewhere else.
And we're all African.
And we're just proud of our countries and where we're from. And I think that's the most important thing is when the bell goes, these two warriors are going to give each other the best go of their lives. And that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, sport brings people, countries, and all races together. And we've seen that throughout the years. That's one of the things Nelson Mandela said. Sport changes lives, and so does education. And I think that's what people need to realize. No matter where you're from, your ethnicity, your country, your skin color, sport equalizes everything. Everybody comes together.
There's no racism in sport.
Most important thing.
Not at all.
Yeah, and as South Africans, we get very, very, we get when the Springbok plays, when anybody, we like to back our boys.
Of course.
No matter if it's boxing, whether it's Olympics, whether it's rugby, cricket, even if you're not a cricket fan, for example, or a rugby fan, people get together in South Africa. We love that.
We're a great sporting nation.
We love sports.
Sport brings people together.
Absolutely.
No matter what your race is. And that's
whether it's our weather or not, or just that we're great people. South Africa's got a great sporting heritage and nation.
And also kudos to Adesanya and those guys who are African doing big things in the UFC, because Dricus is now the new guy on the block, so they're going to be threatened by him. And I think they are African. They just reside in other countries. Does not mean they're not African. And what they've done for Africa is also great. Their native countries like Nigeria. I think the one country is
they're
Nigeria.
both from Nigeria.
Yes.
And it's a big thing. It's like Anthony Joshua. He resides in the UK. He's proudly a UK, but he's got Nigerian descent, and you can't take that away from them. Yes. And they've paved the way for guys like Dricus and guys like myself who are from South Africa to come on and enter the scene. So I think it's very important.
Well, I believe in life, you turn every negative into positive, and that's exactly what's happened. Yeah, Israel Adesanya has turned into such a positive for you, because when that fight does come, and you do fight him and you do beat him, even challenging him, it's going to be a great money fight for you and a big fight for you. So
it's going to get everybody excited. So
we look forward to that. I look forward to you flying me to Las Vegas when you beat Adesanya. And look forward to Kevin flying me to wherever it's going to be
Poland,
to fight Lukasz Rozanski. Well, we'll fight him in Las Vegas or at Empress Palace.
We'll fight him at home.
Yeah, we'll fight him right at Empress Palace. So thank you very much, Kevin Lerena. It's been a great chat.
Thank you.
Thanks once again, Kevin. We see a lot of. Thank you for our first time coming at you.
Thank you for having me. It was absolutely awesome. Thank you.
A fantastic having you guys. Thank you. Good luck on your big fights coming up next week, Saturday. Of course, Ryad Merhy at Empress Palace on the 13th of May on the Golden Glove Show, and brought to you by World Sports Betting. Thank you, Dricus du Plessis, for being our guest today. From me, Brian Mitchell, thank you for watching.